Morning space chats.
Hi, welcome to Morning Space Chats, which is our morning episodes of the Space Cats Happy Hour podcast. I'm Sadie Cat, aka Sun Portal, aka Kay, and I'm with my lovely co-host.
Dread Pirate KK coming at you.
Yay! Um, Highly encourage watching these if you're able to. Um, There's a lot of visual stuff that tends to happen. So you can do that on Spotify and starting now on YouTube as well. So if you don't have a Spotify account, you can watch them for free on YouTube. And that's exciting. Otherwise, listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. If you have questions or comments, our email is spacecatshappyhour@gmail.com. And yeah, we love to hear from you. So today we're recording this. It's September 12th, and it'll be coming out on the following Monday, 15th.
Yeah.
Um, and in the interim, Dread Pirate KK has released our biggies, some biggies podcasts. So those are out too. And those, yeah, go have a listen to those. We're
Good.
warning, my face looks gruesome in part of it, or it's one, right? You put you
One.
one.
I combined it.
We recorded them a week apart, and the in the end that was to show some crazy healing that I had, some like super 60 ascension healing from an injury I got. So you see the injury in the first one, and then in the next one it's like practically gone. We recorded them a week apart.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I love our little chats.
Hmm. Um, Not to get into any of the details of your life, but you've had a busy week. I know that, with lots of like visits to your midnight diner. So
Yeah.
lot of people in that space, which I find really interesting.
I find it interesting too because I have gotten the feeling that this place is supposed to be a gathering spot of some kind, like not just open to the public for anybody necessarily, but like people are supposed to come to me because it's not just me. I think it's also the land here. It's a very particular cleansing, clearing energy. It feels kind of like fresh spring water a lot of times. And so I feel like what my energy does is kind of like I'm very Uranian. I will do like the earthquake, lightning strike, let's shake up your worldview kind of shit, and also very Plutonian. Like I excavate and like all the trash comes up, and I am a trash goddess, so I will take the trash out for you. And then the energy of the land just kind of soothes and just it's like yeah, like I said, it's fresh spring water energy out here. And so I'm not usually a person who or I don't know. I like my alone time and I don't like really being around people. So the messages I was getting about like, oh yeah, you're gonna have events out here or people are gonna start coming and it's not gonna be overwhelming, it's gonna be enjoyable. And so I've had a lot of, well, not a lot, but two, but still two is a lot for me,
One
especially with
no less.
what?
In 1 week, no less.
Yeah, exactly. The eclipse energies are really eclipsing, and so people have been coming out here for spiritual counseling sessions, basically. And it's really it feels really good. I feel like I'm just in a really nice place of surrender where, and I know Pearl left voice notes in our group chat, and I was feeling the same way, where it's just like I finally feel like I always knew there was divine timing and this and that and whatever, but I've had this frustration and like trying to anchor into the faith and the belief and the knowing, even amongst all the fear and uncertainty and all that stuff. And now I finally feel like I'm not fighting to believe it. It just is a very inner peace, very surrender moment of like everything is literally fine. Like I finally feel like everything is fine and that I can see how, yes, sometimes I'm in the waiting periods or whatever, and that's a good time to rest. And then I take the action steps in front of me, and that just keeps me forward movement. And so it's a really nice, I feel like I can breathe. It's a really good feeling.
It's an amazing feeling just hearing you now, and then when you described it in the chat, it just felt like incredible, incredible
Yeah,
feeling.
it's good. I
Um,
think it's the Virgo Pisces nodal axis that we're in. It's like, the Virgo wants to plan and do the things and like, figure out the future and figure things out. And Pisces is like, well, you're just going to go with the flow here. So it just feels like I'm finally surrendering to it. And it helps because like I have huge, massive placements of Virgo and Pisces in my chart. And so it's hitting all of those things and just kind of showing me a lot of this stuff is showing me how far I've come and how much I don't know. I just am like, wow, I didn't realize I had done all this work. I kind of feel like the Hulk a little bit because the stuff that's coming at me right now, I'm like, doop doo doo, like it's no big deal. And a previous version of me would have just been like maybe drowning in the energies or like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And I just don't have any of that right now. I'm like, okay, here we go.
um, I just wanted to say for those who aren't familiar with Pearl, we are in the Dragon Tree. We formed the Dragon Tree Collective with Pearl a few years ago. She's a very incredible, um, magical being and person. And we had started Patreon for it, and we had kind of gotten into the planning phase, and then we all had to kind of take a hiatus from that, and from 2022 onwards, I think, to just kind of like other things in our each of our own individual lives took over a bit. So but I kind of feel like, I don't know, the Dragon Tree Collective is going to circle back
I think so too. I'm glad
around.
you said that.
It was really very interesting, cool.
Yeah,
She has a lot of dragon energy,
I know. She's so fun.
um which actually brings me to one of the things that I wanted to ask you to talk about today, because I was just remembering this um kind of semi conflict, I don't know, this thing like friction that I had with Pearl. I forget when, it's years ago now, but it just came back to me today where I was able to see it from the completely different perspective finally. Like the whole way along I kind of knew, but I was resisting. But it was like I was really invested in the idea of, I think I was just in a period of negotiating a lot of interpersonal conflict. It was 2022, the year of the tiger, when I had to be like, I had to acknowledge like my villain role in people's life, or like confront and things like that. And so um I just, looking back at this friction, which is actually something where I was upset at Pearl, not where I was necessarily like in the villain role or whatever, but not that she was a villain, but I just was able to look back at it and be like, oh, like I was just really like, almost from a place of like like the how I sometimes get locked into like, oh, I'm in this now, so I have to like, every situation I have to treat the same way, and every situation I have to like work through conflict, and if I need to express myself if I'm angry, and like I just became kind of rigid about it, to the point where I couldn't see what was actually happening, as it was just like this weird projection playing out that I didn't need to then turn into a conflict with her. But I was like so literal mindedly focused on everything having to play out in that way and work through in that way, because I'd been bombarded with so much of that energy that it just felt like I must keep doing this.
Mm,
And today I was just like finally able to feel it and see it and be like, oh, no, no, it was like literally, it was a situation where I could have just been like, oh, okay, that was like a blip and she doesn't even remember it. So that's the sign that it was a complete blip. I got really hung up on the fact that she didn't remember saying something that had hurt my feelings.
Oh, okay.
And there was a sign that it was like, it wasn't really, she was just blipping in to like play a projection of some fear I had and blipping out.
Mhm.
And I didn't have to give it any attention at all. And anyway, it was just, anyway, that just became really clear to me today
That's awesome.
of like a nice soothing thing
Good.
to let go of after 30 years.
It's so funny.
Thinking about it, but
Yeah.
like, you know, like actually feel it be like, oh, we're done with like that story around it.
Yeah. It's so nice to come to clarity on these kinds of things, even if it does take a few years. It's like, oh, I finally get it. The peace, the inner peace is just really nice when you can kind of put those puzzle pieces together. So,
Yeah. And then you had been having some moments of like clarity around receiving feedback or situations
yes,
and stuff and like not feeling as
attacked.
act. So I thought that was like so, that's like such a peaceful blessing when that can happen.
Yeah, yeah. My placement, and it's partly the Virgo placements. I've kind of identified it astrologically, so I can just kind of, it soothes me to have like, oh, that's why. And it's not, I'm not, there's nothing wrong with me. This is just literally a soul path that I came here to experience and kind of alchemize. And it's my Mars retrograde in Virgo, and it's, I have a Virgo stellium, so the Jupiter is right there next to Mars, and Saturn is also there, and so like the combination of everything just getting bigger and bigger with the Martian retrograde energy in Virgo, where I take any feedback, even if it's not criticism, quote unquote, it's just like, here's the thing. It feels like a knife wound, and I'm like, because I'm the kind of person who I want to, it's related to the people pleasing and whatever, where I try to find everything wrong with myself first so that nobody else can tell me anything bad about myself. So if I've missed something, I get like self-critical, but then I get mad at the person for pointing it out. It's really not a great, it's
Strong.
been a really, yeah, yeah, it's been a really rocky road for me to kind of work through a lot of stuff. And it's tied into shame and all kinds of things. And so it's oh my God, it's been really, really painful. But I did have some feedback the other day from someone who needed me to just kind of stop talking about the things that I was talking about because it was a little too overwhelming and all the things. And I was amazed at how I just took it in, and I was like, it didn't feel bad or hurtful or like a knife wound or like any of that stuff. And there was maybe a little bit of a sting. It's not, there's a ghost energy there where I'm like, oh, damn it. I should have, and I think it might also be tied to my open ajna where it's like I have to prove that I know what it's like I already knew that. I was gonna stop, but I didn't react that way. I was like, you know what? Yep, I got that feeling as well, and it's totally cool. So, whatever. And I was really, really, I just felt so free of those chains that I've been like wrapping myself in, and it felt really, really nice. But yeah, conflict in general, that's why conflict has never felt safe, because I always just like, it just feels like stab, 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 even if it's not like the other person is just coming at me with love. It's not, but it's me taking it in as this elevated, energetic, fight and that kind of thing. So
Yeah. Um, and also this was like, well, it's making me remember the pearl thing too, actually, because when it happened, it was like very soon after a situation where I experienced that with Pearl being on the other end, where it was actually, we were talking about the Dragon Collective and the future of it. And I had suddenly like gotten into this headspace with it where I was feeling very overwhelmed. And I was like getting these downloads around like just offloading a lot of responsibilities. And anyway, I put it into the chat. I was just like, this is this. And then Pearl, in like a super nice way, but was just like, when I'm hearing that, like I'm getting angry, like I don't want to surrender control of it and blah blah blah. And as I was listening to her, I was like, instead of feeling like any defensiveness or shame or like the typical thing, the exact things you described that I would also feel like I should have loved, all that stuff, I was just like, whoa, Pearl is me talking to me right now.
Yeah.
Like, no, you don't need to go down this path. And like, it's like, why do you suddenly want to like abandon, blah, blah, blah. And I was just able to hear it completely from this way. It's like, this is literally just someone um saying what you needed to hear, so
Yeah.
that it had like no sting at all.
Mhm.
um and so I was able to receive it like completely in that way. And that, when I was talking about me being literal and like rigid, then when like soon after something happened which was a completely different scenario, but my literal mind was like, oh, now I'm supposed to express my anger, and of course it'll play out the same way, because
Yeah.
it'll be this like thing, like unless I like, and it was like the situation wasn't the same, it wasn't the same at all. And it was like that sort of, which I wanted to, as you were talking about why we feel this knife wounds and stuff, there's a thing with neurodivergence, and everything's so medicalized, which does not resonate with me. But anyway, what we're currently terming is neurodivergence, and what we're currently, the term that is used for it is rejection dysphoria. But what I just see it as is an extension of just being so, having so many nodes open to stimulation
Mm.
that things are very heightened. So the stimulation to the already overextended nervous system of a conflict,
Mm.
um, it becomes hugely heightened in the body, especially because it's in a context where we haven't gotten any of the tools for conflict to be resolved peaceably and lovingly and all that stuff. So it just feels, you've got on the one hand this like thing that triggers this huge overstimulation, and on the other hand it's just triggering it, and it's, you're saying I'm going to have to live with this overstimulation for a really long time now. It's just going to be a new
Mm.
burden to carry around because um I don't have these tools, and this is how conflict, like it ends in abandonment, or it just ends with like me eating shit and feeling really bad about myself, or me heaping badness upon, X, Y, and Z and stuff. So it's just like that creates this huge internal sense of like overstimulation burden. You're like, I'm going to have to, on top of my daily existence, which is already so tiring and draining because there's so much stimulation, I'm going to have to carry around this like big thing of stimulation, emotional stimulation, with like no tools to diffuse it or like get it, like clear it and stuff.
Yeah. Overactivated nervous system. Man, I feel like I've just been in like fight or flight, freeze and fawn for like 45 years, you know? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, so thank you for talking about that, because
Yeah.
it is, it's just really nice to hear when somebody is able to have a new perspective on conflict, or how they feel, or just a shift, internal shift where things don't feel the same way. It's just like such an optimistic hope
Good.
about.
I know, honestly, like if I can overcome that, I know how hard that was for me to move through and how long it took. And if I can do it, I know that anybody can, because I didn't think I was going to make it. There were moments where I was like, I guess I just live like this for the rest of my life. And I don't have to live like that. But it did take a little bit of, it was uncomfortable, but like again, I'm free. So it was worth the work that I had to put into it. But, Carl Jung said people will go to absurd lengths to avoid their own soul. He said it much more eloquently than that, but I get why, because it's fucking hard to look at some of these things and move through it. But that's why we're here. So,
um I haven't mentioned your haircut. I
oh,
think I'm
yes.
getting mine more under control now, and learning how to
I love your cut.
it, but you just got yours cut.
Yes. I got so I went closer to the I keep calling it a mullet. It's not a mullet. It's a mohawk. So I got closer to that where I shaved more off than last time. And I don't know that I love down to the skin. Like I feel a little bit like a skinhead. I don't know what I look like to other people. I'm just like, ooh. So I think once the hair grows in a little bit, like a couple weeks, I'll be like, ooh, that's where I want. But like, so I can do the full going back, which I will try at some point too. But now I'm just kind of playing with, side stuff. And I realized that I don't know, this might have been obvious to everyone but me because it just takes the time it takes. But I realized that with this shaving thing, I feel like it's me playing with my masculine energy more. And it's because of my own, you know, belief systems or whatever about what a woman should look like, what a man. So typically a man is going to have his head shaved and women are, not really doing that kind of stuff, just according to my old belief system. And so for me, exploring the more masculine haircuts, I still haven't quite figured out what I like, how it's going to work, and I think I need to just meet um like a hairstylist who I call it the soulmate hairstylist who just I feel the same way about my tattoos and stuff. Like I want to get them cleaned up and like morphed because I have morphed and that kind of stuff. And so I just like
Totally.
somebody who yeah. So somebody who knows me who can like just do the thing and I can respond to that where they're like, what about this? And I'm like, yes, thank you for seeing because I can't quite, so I'm still playing around with it and I like it better. Also, I have these weird there were some the first time I shaved my head, the my stylist was like, "Oh my gosh, you have a lot of red bumps back in the back of your head." And I got a little nervous about it, but then I realized I was purging something and it just needed. And so they went away like about a week after I had my head shaved and they started to grow back a little bit when my hair started to grow back. And so I was like, I think my head just doesn't want hair in certain places right now while I'm purging things. And like I said, exploring this masculine energy, I've been doing that since I moved, well, kind of since 2020, but like I got a real concentrated version of working through that and healing it and bringing it back online for myself in a healthy way once I moved into the pirate ship. And that first, because I moved into the pirate ship in like October or whatever, and then that December of 2022, I felt that rebirth of the masculine energy. I had that dream where a man named Horace was under
Yeah.
construction and he was full of stuff. And then I finally realized, oh, that's my inner masculine energy. And so then there was this like whole vision I had on Christmas Eve of like this rebirth in the underworld and like this Horus figure came out. And I was like, oh, anyway, so and I think just since then, everything I've been through is a lot of bringing that healthy masculine back online. And so I'm just playing around with it and it's really fun. And I love that we can talk about this gender identity stuff and like playing around with our energies and how they express because I can't do that with just anyone. So it feels like a really nice safe place to just be of not be a mess in a bad way. I don't mind being a mess. It's kind of fun to be a mess sometimes. And so it's nice to be hanging out with you because you're so honest with it too and like you go through a whole lot of your own massive journeys and shapeshifts and stuff and I'm like, oh, and it sparks stuff in me where I'm like, oh, okay, they're going through this and it's like seeing someone else do it. I'm like, why don't I do that? Why am I not questioning? Or it's really cool. Thanks for taking the lead on that.
Oh. Um, I was just going to describe to you, if people are just listening, that your hair is shaved on the sides, but there's still like
Yeah,
a lot on top. It's like a nice flow of hair, cascade
oh, I like
hair
that.
on top, which is really cool. I think it's interesting when you said about the bumps. I think there's something that happens just with people who are a lot of people who are on a spiritual journey in general, because I've seen other people switch to like shave sides or do things at a certain point, and I went that, and then I ended up like pretty much shaving. It was like pretty much a head shave that I,
Yeah.
and I think there's just times where like that part of your body, like you said, doesn't want a lot of
Mhm.
anything in between it and whatever,
Mm. Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
thing. It just
You
wants
know, that's interesting because I was getting bumps on the back of my head, and isn't that where the causal chakra is?
yes, yes.
Where Neo was plugged in the Matrix, like that back of the neck head thing. Okay, interesting. I don't really know much about the causal chakra. I just know that it exists, and maybe unicorns like to come in through there. I think I read at some point. I don't know.
What do I have I can't remember it now, but it comes to me with a different name than that.
Okay.
Um, it's it's like very much connected to my dreams. Um,
Oh,
like a
interesting.
frontsy backsy third eye thing too.
Oh, that's also interesting.
And
Okay.
yeah, but when you describing it as the causal chakra is very interesting because I have to go down that rabbit hole now and see more about that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I always when I clear it out, it always when I remember to clear it out, it really improves um my dreaming.
Okay.
Um, but unicorns, that's I like that.
I don't know where I read that now, but
Or
yeah.
so this morning, so something funny that I had to share. Oh, I also like we started off and we played that little song. Anyway, how you guys like our our morning space chats, Diddy? I was saying, as I've been saying, I've been getting so many gifts from the street, and one of them was this little Peruvian. Came in an egg that said Peru on it, and it has a condor
Ooh, condor.
play flute pipe thing that's round with little holes on it. And so today I was just like, oh yeah, that would be like because I knew I wanted to bring something musical into the beginning of the show for fun.
Yeah.
And then you just instantly came up with melody, but that's what I'm playing on is a little round egg shaped thing with a condor painted on it.
That was what I was going to ask about. I forgot because we started talking. I was like, "Ooh, I haven't seen that one." You just found it off the street again? You were really finding good stuff.
I disinfected it.
That's okay.
If somebody just to say, I may be kooky, but I still take some precautions. Um, but yeah, just people have been putting out like to give away piles. So much. I just got another. This is like the true blood. I'm like wallpaper sample books for collaging. They're just so amazing. And I already had one, which I was like, because they're like very expensive. Like to buy a wallpaper, it's like over $100 to get a book of wallpaper sample. I know it's silly,
Oh,
but so people have been putting them out. So I found three more, and the colors of the papers, and one of them is just called Sparkles
oh
and
my God.
Sparkly. And then because the one I got, it was good because it was neutrals, which is good for backgrounds for collages and stuff. But this one just has so many beautiful colors to play with.
Awesome. Oh my gosh.
So excited to have it.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like it's telling me that yes, I'm definitely going to be
Mhm.
making more like oracle cards for people.
That's what it feels like. Yeah, like a level up. Here you
Yeah,
go.
I keep getting more and more and more materials for it. So,
So cool.
but yes, this morning. Okay, so first of all, I did a journey earlier, maybe yesterday, I can't remember, a couple of days ago, and it was say I'm very connected to Santa energy and like elven energy. And I just actually now I'm going on a tangent, but I
I
actually
love
found out the other day it was like these comedians arguing about Santa, and he was like, no, listen to the source material. Listen to the source material. Santa is an elf. And they're like, no, Santa's like this like big guy. The elf, he's like, no, Santa is an elf. And then they went back to this old poem about Santa, and it does describe there one where it talks about his belly jiggling. It does describe him as like a jolly old elf. And I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Oh, interesting.
Um, I'm like, it totally makes sense because it's that aurora borealis elven
Mhm.
energy anyway that Santa would also be an elf. Anyway, so he showed up as Mike. I was like, who's guiding me? And one of the things he told me to do was to write a letter to the Prime Minister of Canada
Okay.
and just like put down like what I want the government to do. Okay. Um, and I don't think we haven't talked about this on air, but it is so funny because one of the things that I practice is staying way out of the news cycle. And there's a very important reason that I do that. And if news needs to come to me, it will come to me through just people talking or it'll somehow get through. But for the most part, I am very out of the loop. Um, and that is to allow collective reality to be as fluid as possible so that I'm not putting my attention fixating on, oh, it's not going to be possible for such and such a happen because the whatever, like the corporations have said this or this health governing body has said this or the government has said this or whatever. Like I just stay completely out of it, and that allows things to my big example is how quickly things happened around marijuana and psychedelic drug use, legalizations of things like that in Canada. And if I had been plugged in, everybody was saying it's still going to be like decades before we see whatever. But I was just completely zoomed out, and it was like, and so when it happened, people were just like, "Whoa, this is like way faster than we," Anyway, of course,
Yeah.
a long time of people have been working on it, but like they weren't expecting things to move as quickly as where we are now with just yeah, like weed
Yeah.
is everywhere now. Like you can't walk down a street without a weed store. So yeah, so that's a very concrete reason that I stay out of things. Um, and the really funny outcome of that was that I had no idea that our prime minister, Justin Trudeau, who's been our prime minister for since 2011, if not before, anyway, for a long time,
Mhm.
that he had resigned and that there was someone new. So we had another election. Canada has elections, like they call the elections. It just happens whenever. So it's not like we have them every few years. It's like you call an election, so it can happen whenever at all. And it's a very short. We don't have the huge cycle. It's like it happens within 3 months or whatever. So I believe that yeah, that's what happened. Was there was an election. See how out of it I am. I don't even know. There was an election, and so I found out people kept referring to this Mark Carney. Suddenly everybody was like, I was like seeing it because there's this, anyway, on Instagram there's a few funny Canadian accounts that I follow, and they were like making jokes about Mark Carney, and I was just like, uh who the
Who
hell,
the hell?
is Mark Carney? And Mike's like, he's the new head of the Liberal Party because Justin Trudeau resigned. I was like, Justin Trudeau resigned? He gazed at me blankly because sometimes it stuns him the extent to which I'm out of things. And like, anyway, Justin Trudeau's a pretty high profile. Like he has a lot of charisma, so he tends to generate a lot of news stories. So it's pretty hard to not be in the know about what's going on with Justin Trudeau. Anyway, so this guy is like bland as hell. Mark, it seems like he's like a blank sheet of paper. But anyway, so that happened a while ago, that election, or whatever it was that alerted me to the fact that Justin Trudeau resigned, and um, Mark Carney's the new prime minister. The prime minister of Canada, if you're American, it's whoever is the head of the party that wins. So it's not like you elect the person, you elect the party, and then the head of that party becomes the prime minister.
Okay.
So
Got it.
yeah. Um, so I knew enough now to address it to Mark Carney and not Justin Trudeau. So I was like, I have to write this out. So I'm like writing it out, and I'm like, am I gonna also have to send it? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, okay, I feel silly, but that's good. Like
Amazing.
it's really lean into
Silly.
silly and like out there stuff right now. It's not about being grounded and in this thing and like quote unquote rational. It's like, so I wrote it out and I followed my body. And so it was like a lot of things I was writing were very general as opposed to hyper specific. And then my body would be like, no, don't write about that at all. And I was like, really? But I want that. And then I was like, I'm going to go look it up. And just like, oh, it's because they've already started doing it. I was like, okay, that happened with two
Oh,
things. So I was like,
cool.
cool. And so it's just a short little letter. And I put my first initial and my first last name on it. And I was like, so I am signing this to me, but I was like, I didn't put any contact info except for like my mailing address. I was like, I do not need any follow-ups. I was like, I already feel goofy enough. I don't need somebody like some, because I have back when I was very in my arsenal days pre metaphysical stuff. I did actually write to members of parliament about issues, and then they usually call you back and you have to talk to them, and it's very awkward.
Ugh.
It's not something that I enjoyed. So I was like, no, we'll just leave it at that. So I had it, and then I had to go walk it to a mailbox to be posted. And we barely have any mailboxes anymore. They're so few and far between. So it's not like the old days where it was like basically at the corner of any
Every corner.
find one. And I almost pooped my pants.
What?
It's just the whole story I is like,
Oh my God.
because part of this physical stuff that I've been dealing with since last October, digestive stuff usually involves like super urgent in the morning bathroom stuff. And sometimes it's two, mostly it's just one. So I'd had the one and I felt fine and I went on my merry walk. And usually everything just works out when I do that anyway. Like, but today there was a little trickster energy. Part of the thing is also because of I got into this habit because of the way that my digestive system was like responding to things, where I drank all my water in the morning for the day. So I drink 3 liters of water over the course, which is a lot, or 3 liters. I know you guys use a different metric, but it's like
Isn't 4 liters a gallon or
yeah.
something? Yeah. That's
So
almost a gallon of water. Wow.
like two, and then have nothing throughout the rest of the day. So I still drink a lot of water in the morning, and that tends to really flush stuff out, combined with walking. So I was just walking around drinking my water, and then I was like, ugh, and I decided, because it's like to get to the post office box, it was like I think a 20-minute walk, and I was like, oh man. And it was right, so it's like and I decided to walk back on these back streets that are kind of like a rabbit warren.
Oh.
So I didn't know where I was, and I was in a back alley. And then I looked and I was like, oh, thank God. Okay, I'm close to this park. And I knew the park had bathrooms. And I was like, no. I was like, no, I'm definitely gonna make it. This is not gonna be a thing. We know that. Like, I'm not here for that kind of experience. I don't need that kind of experience in my life. But when I got to the park, there were actually two bathrooms. So there was one exactly where I came out at, and it had just been cleaned. It was like sparkling. And also that meant that the cleaning staff had just left and not in there, which was appreciated. So it was like
Better.
very peaceful and very nice, but it was a very funny thing to be on the way to mail this letter. That's like, I was like, okay, I'll give one. Like, one of the examples was like, implement. And I put like by the end of 2025 anyway, just as like a whatever. I don't know. I wanted these things, but I was like, implement wise and generous programs and initiatives for the following. And so it's all very like, it's like quite spiritually written, I guess.
Awesome.
It's not written like any past version of me would have ever conceived of writing a letter to the government, you know, which I
Yeah.
think is the point. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I did cover a lot of ground. So we'll see.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was a cool directive, and I was like, that sounds fun to do.
Hell yeah.
Write a
Right.
letter to, I don't know. Okay, because this is a Canadian thing too, because the path in Canada feels very different than the path in the US. And I know we're also divesting from putting our energy and power into the government, and we're taking our power back for ourselves at the collective level, and that's a big part of it. So but I think there are other places in the world similar to Canada where we are going to see like transfers of leadership where it's not going to be necessarily quite as dramatic as what happens, say, in the States, which I think is going to be really cool as well to see. It's going to be so decentralized. But in Canada, it feels like there's just going to be a lot more transfer to Indigenous peoples of
Mhm.
leadership positions.
Interesting.
And so it might be just a bit of a different route. And there might be other areas in the world that are also kind of similar that aren't going to necessarily have the level of, well, I guess in the States, it feels like it's going to become more and more localized.
I think you're, yeah, it feels, yeah.
So, in a way, like Canada has such a fraction of the population of the States that, in a way, we might just see that federally, where in the States it's more at the state, and then like, and then even gets more and more micro localized beyond that.
Yeah, that's what I was feeling with this fall of the empire. Like it's gonna, they're trying for a civil war, which is, that's the astrology points to the war, all the things that everyone's talking about. And I'm like, we're not doing a war. It's good. There's going to be chaos and, maybe some violence, where, but it's not going to be a war. And what I think is going to happen is secession will be back on the table for like Texas or Florida or California or one of those things, and it might start with different states like those three, but then it also may turn into regional breakups where there's just certain, and there are maps. I don't know if it's an Edgar Casey thing, the Sleeping Prophet, or if it was like from a different channel, or I can't remember, but there are maps of America that look like they're broken up into regions. And then from there, it's going to go even further into like city states, little, very, very localized. That's how I feel what's going to happen. And it's just going to be, we're taking our energy back and we're going to build our own communities and we're going to have our own localized governing bodies of some sort that kind of, I think of it as like leadership in a traditional Quaker church or meeting house. And if you've never been to one of those, it's like completely silent. There's no music, there's no sermon, there's no nothing. You just sit there for an hour and there's no minister or preacher or anything. It's like there's a governing body sort of like church elders, and they kind of sit in the front pew and whatever, but they don't say anything. They're not leading it. They're just kind of providing some structure in case there are questions or whatever. And so that's how it kind of feels. I don't know how long it's going to take to get to that point of those governing bodies, but that's what it feels like.
Yes, that your Quaker background is so fascinating and seems to hold so many gems in it. Did you hear the big siren come through to confirm while you were saying? I was like,
No.
a really loud siren.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, yeah, I'd like put my request into the,
Good.
like,
Well, I feel like that's how you manifest a lot, especially with those three left arrows in human design, where you like can say specifics or think specifics. And I'm kind of the opposite. I have three right arrows, and I kind of just feel things and just kind of allow it to. I can shape, or I know the idea or the feeling I want to experience of like, okay, I'm ready for this big thing, but the higher self gets to fill in the details. And then I get to, I'm like, oh, okay, that is definitely for me, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I'm watching The Librarians with Allie. She comes over pretty much every Tuesday, and we started with the movies. If you don't know what The Librarian, it started with three movies called The Librarian, and it's kind of like Indiana Jones type things. It's a Noah Wiley plays this guy who gets a job in the magical library, and they go off and rescue magical objects and this and that. And then they made a TV show out of it, and there's multiple librarians. And so we've moved on from the movies and are now on the TV show. And the last episode we just watched was about Santa. It's like, ooh, Christmas. Let's go. It was a cute episode because Bruce Campbell plays Santa, and I fucking love Bruce Campbell. Oh my God.
Yes, he's great. um, my brain just for a second mixed him up with Bruce LaBruce. Have you ever heard of Bruce LaBruce?
No.
He's Canadian gay pornographer slash experimental filmmaker, very outspoken, very funny. Um,
Definitely not Bruce Campbell.
oh, and the other thing I did, which I have no idea, but I'm just trying to open myself up and be more like go with the flow, is so the where I'm from, the Eastern Townships in Quebec, has this journal called the Township Sun, and they are the ones. So my mom is connected to them because she does their crossword puzzle, and she also was very close friends with their editor in chief. So she was the one who initially recommended that I reach out to them about doing a book review of Mara and the Bad Wolf. And then so that happened, and along with an interview, and then I became the ambassador for their Township's Young Voices program, which is it was the first time they'd ever done it, and it was a very kind of fluid, I don't know what role, and I ended up going into my health thing. So I don't know how much actually came out of that, but I was the ambassador. Um, and anyway, now Rachel, my mom's friend Rachel, is stepping down from the position. So like I got this email from them, and it was like we're looking for new people to be on our board of directors, and we're looking for like a new editor in chief.
Oh.
Like because I was a senior editor at an online journal, and then before that, when I did the Lickety Split zine in Montreal, which was this collaborative zine,
Mhm.
um, I was like the editor curator person. So I was like, maybe this is going to help me to like be a stepping stone to like get this experience and blah blah blah.
Wow.
I don't know if it's going to, but I just wanted to open myself up beyond. I'm trying to just be like open to like
Mhm.
surprising paths and not be so rigid about how everything has to happen.
Oh my God, that is so cool.
Them and I was like, put it out, and I put out. I was like, I haven't heard back. I haven't heard. It's been a week. It's been a like this week has been like everything is on pause, or like since last week. There's been like no responses. Like, so we will see. But I don't know if it's just the energy of that because that's also what the energy that I kind of want to embody with future projects that I'm involved in related to the books and also to like other stuff is like this kind of editor in chief energy. And so that I have this huge billboard. When you step outside my house, it's like right there on the street. And it's always changing exactly with it's always like the day I came back from, and it will change like over the course of a walk, so there won't even have been enough time for people to go and change it. And it'll be like weird times of day too that don't make any sense.
Whoa.
Like I'll notice the old billboard when I leave, and by the time I said this was what happened, it was just like a I don't know 30 to 40 minute walk. And
Damn.
yeah, because it's like, yeah, it's like a 15-20 foot building. Like people have to get up and do all the
Yeah.
whatever, you know. So for example, when I finally went to the hospital and like got the Ativan and like all that, like started treating my mental state, I came back and because I've been having this digestive issue that I had got me to basically eating nothing. Um, and it was a new thing called Eat the World. So I was like, okay, we're on the right track. And then that changed maybe in July to elevate your everyday experience, which is very much what I feel has been happening since then. And then yesterday, it in the course of the walk, it changed to The Paper, which is the new show by the people that made The Office, and it's
Oh.
about um, this guy that takes over as the editor in chief for this like little paper that's like basically just reposting, you know, ads and clickbait and other people's, that's all that's happening, and he's like wants it to turn back into like actual local journalism and stuff.
Oh my God, that is really cool.
Editor in chief role, I don't even know if that just means energetically like being the editor in chief of your life, but whatever, that's what is the new billboard.
I am loving this. Well, it's the on pause thing is very much the energy right now where it's like quote unquote false starts. I don't know that I love that terminology, so that's why I'm putting it in quotes because it's like I don't anyway, but like this eclipse just like heaved up so much stuff and it's like then the pieces kind of need to it's like some sort of order in the chaos. I don't know what the words are I'm looking for, but something needs to happen, kind of chill out for a mo. And like, while people kind of integrate what the fuck just happened in their lives and all kinds of everything is going on right now. And so it's like we got these ideas for the things that are like it could have started just then, like the starts that I was feeling for myself. It was like, oh, I thought this was happening now. And it's like actually that was just a preview, like other things need to happen, things, whatever. And then once this next eclipse comes around, I think those are when the new starts and the changes and stuff start to really roll out, but it's going to take a few months to like for myself, the changes that I'm seeing with like a new housemate and all kinds of stuff, which we can get into at some point. But I thought it was going to happen that week of the eclipse. I was like, oh, I'm getting somebody right now. Like, good thing I cleaned up my junk room, like all kinds of shit. And then it's like, actually, it's going to be a few months before like other things play out for those people involved. And then my new start happens. And it's not that no new starts are coming. It's just like we got these weird like introductions to things and it was like, oh, is this happening? Oh wait, no, pause. And then it's back into rest mode or whatever. It's just kind of like you can't do anything, you just gotta take your hands off the wheel and be like, well, it's going to play out the way it's going to play out. But I think a lot there might be a little bit of frustration just in the collective or whatever, be like, well, I thought this was happening, and I'm like, no, it will, but it's kind of this eclipse season feels like it has changed everything in a way that not all eclipse seasons have felt like to me, even though there's always big changes coming through. This is just a real, it's
Yeah.
just interesting. And I'm just letting it play out, see what unfolds. But
Yeah, that's why I'm like, okay, so I put that in, who knows, like, but I just
yeah.
doing it just like unclogged like
Yeah.
sense to, because I had when it kept showing up in my email, they were like, we're still looking for people, and I was just like, I was like, I wasn't like, I was like, well, this would take me away from the stuff, and I was like, am I even excited to like work on that and blah blah blah, and but then I was just like, I just kept getting like nudges from my body to be like, so I was like, you know what do I know like about what the experience could be, so
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, I love that energy too, because like again, for my own changes, I was like, I could have been, I started to get a little bit worried about like, oh, oh, it's gonna be hard and this and that. And then I was like, what if it's fun and easy and it's nobody I'm just opening myself up to things that are just not the old stories of what it should look like or has looked like in the past. It's like, well, this is not the past. This
this is
is something new.
oh yeah, which was the big anyway, there was the big channeled message. Oh no, I think I mentioned that in one of our podcasts, but about like 8-8 being the reset, where like what happens one day, you just leave it in that day and you move on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so so yeah, I want to talk about something now that it's like maybe feels paradoxical, but maybe not, which is having just sent a letter to the government being like, like do these things for the environment, for indigenous reparations, for like support arts and culture, all these things that I'm like definitely putting the energy of like, this is what I care to see, and this is the future I want to see. The energy, the messages I was getting about this eclipse portal is to be like, I don't care. I made a video on TikTok yesterday about it. It's just like, I don't care. I don't care. And of course, me being super out of the news cycle, then I was like, I think I put it out the same day. Some kind of tragedy happened. I don't know. There was something. Apparently there's a whole lot of like upsetting, tragic things right now.
Yeah.
I've gotten pretty good at removing myself from that. In my own personal life is where the I don't care is still rooting itself, especially like health and career. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I think I don't care is essential, and it's essential, compassionate, loving thing to do right now, to practice caring less.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because um, the over caring, by which I mean tuning into every story, everything that's happening in every part of the world, local, international, and caring about all of it is completely, first of all, going to crash and burn your system. I've done it. I've been there. 2016 to 2019 and earlier, as I was kind of already on that path of like trying to prove to myself that I cared the most. Had to look down every dark alley at like literally looking for every darkest part of the world and humanity and like staring it in the face. Um, now, that was a way, and I think there's a wave of us who had our awakening through that. And there's another wave that's kind of going down that path as well. Now, I just heard about people calling themselves dark woke who are like
I've never heard that.
some way by the 2024 election.
Huh.
But what I'm feeling is okay, it's fine to go down that path. It's fine if you do that and that becomes your path to awakening. But people now, everything is, when I did it, things were not as oversaturated as they are now, and hyper connected and hyper aware, and to like we hadn't all come online to the same extent emotionally, energetically. We're not all like picking up exponentially more vibrations and emotions and everything as we are now. So that's one thing. So that's one reason why I don't think people have to go as far into that as I did and spend as much time in it. But aside from just crashing your system, it just makes you completely ineffective to bring forth the things that you actually want to. So the caring about everything and the urgency and the sense that if you look away from something and you're not witnessing something, um, then it's going to allow it to go unchecked. So you need to have your eyeballs on everything. It's just not sustainable. It's not true. Um, Putting your eyeballs on something is a good way to prolong it. um,
Yeah.
and there are definitely people who are putting their eyeballs and um, energies into collapsing. Um, but again, you have to be specific with your goals. If you are in that arsenal energy, you don't have to do anything. Do whatever you want. Don't listen. I'm not the boss of you. Listen, but I would strongly suggest narrowing your focus, and rather than focusing on resistance to anything, focus on killing and collapsing that which has to go. Because just resisting
For
is a very effective way to create counter resistance and prolong the situation, whereas simply moving with natural death cycles and tapping into destructive energy to just like allow something that already wants to collapse. That's why it's become so exaggerated and like at the extreme end of the spectrum. It's because it's on its way to collapse already, and then you're just,
open it.
that's very effective right now. So, for example, slogans that have like death to this, very effective slogans. The slogan of resist, no.
Mm-mm.
Not a slogan that I would personally connect myself. The slogan, for example, free Palestine, very powerful because it equates Palestine with already being free, right? It's a verb, but it's already, you can also read it as Palestine is free, right? Free Palestine. So again, working with that, those currents of energy as opposed to against them is very potent right now. Um, Caring less also helps you detach from um, the details of the situation and everything that's like making it seem like certain things have to play out for the change you want to take place, um, to happen in this order or in this amount of time. It's going to have to take this amount of time, or people are going to have to do this, or else it can't happen. No, when you care less, you remove that micromanagement and you allow things to happen in any wacky old way that they do, even if it's uncomfortable or seems like it's going in the opposite direction. This goes back to our This Is Safe episode, where it was like people gathering together to try to do something. They create even more chaos than what they were intending. They're like, oh no, oh no. And then um, everything turns out fine and it's all fine. So things, it's that surrender, letting things happen without having to say why or in how much time. But that's not like, that can mean less time. That doesn't always mean having more patience. That can mean surprisingly less time than you expected, or it can mean having patience and just trusting. Um, Caring less allows you to be in your compassion and be in your energy of love and have the energy and resources sustainably to nurture what you want to nurture. And like, it's just, it really amplifies the effectiveness. So if you're concerned with the effectiveness of what you're doing in the world, it's a really good tool. I think people would get so hung up on different things when they're becoming or are politically active or are really tuning into the suffering of the world. They get hung up on like wanting to be right about something, even if it's awful, versus being able to be surprised because it's that control thing, because then they predicted it and they had the control and they were right. So it's that refusal to surrender. So it like that tuning into everything and caring about everything and getting so worked up over everything, um it blocks compassion.
Mm.
It blocks our ability to truly feel, because compassion thrives when we are able to cultivate like inner serenity. It just flourishes and thrives. Compassion can thrive in any environment and it can come through in any environment, but it is much easier and simpler for it to thrive when we are cultivating inner serenity and we are not constantly bombarding ourselves. The other thing is, this is like next level stuff, but this is all threshold guardian shit. We're living in a big lucid dream. Everything is fluid in the external reality. Things can happen and unhappen. Things can be true in one moment, not true in the other, or even simultaneously true and not true. Um, and so, um, really tapping into that knowledge that like we're not just these finite beings wherein our death and our suffering is the most important preoccupation, because that's all we have is this life where we can prevent and minimize death and suffering. When you zoom out and care less, you are tuning into that frequency of knowing that there's so much more beyond the material and what we're perceiving to happen. I think I'm starting to get too many threads and I'm getting a little confused in what I'm talking about, but it's basically the thing that really fuels being able to care less while knowing that that's the ultimate form of compassion, because it's the ultimate form of most efficiently taking you towards and into your desired reality, which is one that your heart, what your heart wants is harmony and balance and abundance and collaboration and peace and goodwill and joy and creativity and kindness and stuff. It's taking you there more quickly. Um, but that it's that knowledge that what we're seeing right now is all extremely flexible and fluid, that allows you to really not care about, I remember where I was going with this, the threshold guardians, these stories that come up just when people were starting to relax a little bit. There's another story, right? It's because the closer we're getting to, for more and more people to cross that threshold of not taking the external reality as the final truth or the ultimate determination of what's real, the more threshold guardians pop up in the form of upsetting things to like for our egos to hold on to be like, wait, no, or just for our egos to hold on to by having our nervous system crash, so we could be like, no, I have to sit in this nervous system crash and repair until the next story triggers me again. So I know that one particularly, that last version can sound particularly callous, because I am literally saying, you, like, these tragedies are threshold guardians and they may not be as real as you think they are. And that can sound very, very dangerous and very callous. But having experienced it over and over and over in my life at the micro and at the collective level. And I'll go back to my story about when I went to meet up with you and Pearl and our friend Linda in 2021 in Berkeley. And I went to San Francisco, and I I had to go get a COVID test before coming home. So I had to go into San Francisco for that and go to this clinic. And so where the train dropped me off, the BART system, it was like right in the area where all the homeless encampments were. And I was walking around and seeing it, and it was obviously very upsetting and like um just witnessing the sheer volume of people and stuff. And then so I had to walk through the area, and I was just really aware. It also was like there weren't a lot of people just walking around doing things like in a city. It was like, it was all I was seeing was just the people who were living in the encampments and like the tents and stuff. So there wasn't like business being, it was like kind of like a ghost town vibe, except for the people living in the encampments. And so I was really noticing things because it's very shocking to see. And then I had to leave that area. I was walking to go because I wanted to go check something out. And I ended up, I had an internal shift in my energy that day. And I got my COVID test, which brought me back. I had a big internal shift, which also the test was going to be like something like 300 US. It was going to be so much, and I had it for free. I ended up getting it for free. Part of the shift was that they just gave it to me, and I walked. I was like, oh, okay, which was like really huge for me at the time financially. And then I walked back through that area. So maybe like a couple of hours had passed, and there was a fraction of the tents and people there. And you could tell that they were actually disappeared and not that they'd been moved by like creepy paramilitary, whatever, private companies, because there's so much stuff around
Yeah.
a tent. And it was like, it was just absorbed. Like it wouldn't have been able, it was just completely excised. So what I was walked back through was a completely different reality where like, I don't know, a quarter to a third fewer people were living in those circumstances, right? Very, very spooky. But it was a very, very powerful lesson about the fluidity of the collective reality in particular. And that cultivating the internal detachment around the story, the news coverage at large and the events at large as much as you can. And if you need to focus on something, have it be the thing that you're actually focusing on destroying, and like put your energy just towards destroying it if that is what you are here to do. And if you have been doing that and you are burnt out and it's time for you to move to a different phase, that is what you're supposed to do now, and you're going to embody that new phase, and other people are going to take up the old phase, and you are supposed to hold a different frequency anyway. But that detachment is what allows those things to happen. So very, very trippy stuff where things can just completely change, and we can be in a completely shifted version where things are actually quite a bit better than we thought the more we detach. So that's my pitch for not caring.
I love it. I've been talking about this on a couple of my streams actually,
Oh,
where I'm like, find your role in the revolution. And that does include, and it includes things like, I don't know that I ever used the word not caring, but I like the way that you just bluntly said that. It's just like shake it up and let's get there. Where I was like, we're being bombarded, like overwhelmed with bad news, this bad news, like all. And I think I talked about this more when Trump first got into office, that the second time, and he was doing all these executive orders left and right and everyone was freaking out, and I was like, that is that is a tactic to get you to scatter your energy and not focus on the things that you know you're here to focus on. And so making that a worldwide thing or even a personal thing where things are hitting you all at once, it's like you got to get real quiet and listen to your intuition about what you're supposed to be doing and what you're supposed to be caring about, what your energy can be most useful doing. And it's like the anxiety and fear voices are going to scream at you in your head, and the real quiet, more gentle, very loving, intuitive voice needs the quiet to kind of distinguish between, like you need the quiet to distinguish between the anxiety voice and like the heart-led intuition. And so we've been trained to think, it's, I call it my toxic empathy, because I'm here on this incarnation, working through a lot of that on my own. And I used to be that same way, and anyway, whatever. But um it's like empathy overwhelm until you just kind of get so tired, you're like, okay, well, I don't care anymore. And you get to that place, and you've worked through all this, and I guess I'm speaking for myself, it's not you, but whatever. I it's like I cared so much about everything that I got burnt out and couldn't care about anything. And I just felt like so bad that I was a bad person, that I didn't care, that I didn't know what was going on, like this and that. And then you work through that, and it's like, oh, I see that I'm just focusing my energy on the things that I can actually do. And one of the things I talked about in the stream was like, focus on what you can build, not what's collapsing. But which I know is a little bit counter to what you were saying, which is like focus on the collapse or whatever. But if that's what you're here to do, focusing on the collapse.
yes, I was just speaking to that because I think some people who might hear may actually be it, focusing their energy on the collapse is what that is
Yes.
important for them right now. But build is also, of course, focus
Yeah.
and build and like
And
what.
that's the point. It's like figure out what you are here to be doing. And so I also have removed myself from the news cycle, but I still follow it, I think, more than you do, because I think part of what I enjoy doing is like witnessing what is happening and like accepting it instead of resisting it, being like, I accept that these bad things are happening, or whatever looks bad, whatever. And then I just kind of I remove that toxic empathy from it because I'm
That
what?
no, that is exactly an I don't care, like that is kind of what I was failing to say or trying to get it. It's like just accepting it without being like sucked in.
Resisting.
Oh no, all the emotions.
Yeah.
Incredibly powerful for just collapsing its hold on you and its hold on external reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the other things that I keep talking about in my stream are like, just we've been trained to think that we should all be arsenal and we should all be collapsing or all protesting or all whatever. And it's like, we need childcare, we need gardeners, we need educators, we need, like the things that we need. And so it's okay if you're not out there, burning things to the ground, because that's someone else's job. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is that this all reminded me of, especially the fluidity of the reality, and how an internal shift you can see the fewer homelessness kind of stuff. um I've heard Jordan Crowder talk about this. He's just another spiritual guy. I love him so much, but he he said stuff that I resonate with way more than like people who are like, oh, we live in a simulation, blah blah, which I agree with to a certain extent, but it never quite resonated. He talks about it as like we live in a simulator. So like when you're in a flight simulator, you're for a pilot or whatever, you're like faced with all these crazy fucking scenarios that are not real to train you for, stuff. And so what he talks about is like how this is a simulator where, oh Okay, so I know I was in the middle of my simulator thought, and so what it was, what I think I mostly finished it, but like when a pilot is in a flight simulator, all these crazy scenarios, you're faced with all this stuff, and if you spend enough time in a simulator, you can sometimes maybe forget that it's not real. And so we're kind of in that, I feel like we're sort of in that phase as a collective where we're remembering that this is a simulator where we're learning and we're growing and we're training for this next phase, which is where, if you manifest something based on your thoughts, it's like instant manifestation. So if you're having a lot of negative thoughts, you're gonna manifest nightmares for like not just you, but like the rest of the collective and like star families and all kinds of shit. So it's kind of like we're this is a training ground. The Earth School is this training ground simulator. And so as you do your own internal work, you realize that you're able to affect reality because by cleaning up your own shit, you see less shit in the external. And so, yes, we're part of a collective. So everyone has to clean up their own shit, which is why we're seeing so much shit because everyone is working on clearing up, their own backyard kind of thing. And so it's like you're right. I do feel callous and cold a lot of times when I talk about this stuff because it's so zoomed out and whatever. But also it's a position of strength because that gives you a way to create the reality that you want. And anyway, so that was kind of where I was coming down on that, where I totally agree with you. And definitely been talking about this where I just am like, focus on what you can build or, focus on what you can just, or whatever it is, but find your thing. And if you're being told by a bunch of different people or sources or whatever, this is how you should be, or this is who you should care about, or blah, 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 that's not going to help you. You're just going to scatter all of your energy and you need to listen to your own self because this is your simulator experience. So,
Yeah, totally. And I think the reason I feel like still some hesitancy or things, or like people are going to get really triggered or upset hearing me say stuff, is that it's literally like it's like it's very, because it's like, well, what do we connect to if not the present moment and what's happening with other people in the world? But we're talking about things that are happening all different levels of distance from you as well. So if I say, like, a news story you hear is a very fluid reality, like, and somebody is like, well, it's so important that we are there for each other and that people hear and witness and bear witness and that we have compassion and this is how we connect with each other. And you're like, but what if you just didn't buy into it as a fixed reality, and then that you found out later that that news story, like, you couldn't find it anymore? You know what I mean? There was no trace of it. Whatever awful thing happened, there was no trace of it. You were in a different version of the infinite versions of reality that there are, right? It's like, is it more important to cling to this model of connection where you trap yourself into having to witness every single thing that happens in a huge world, um or because that is comforting, because it's like, well, it's grounding me in something that feels like linear and real and like secure, and I'm familiar with it? Or can you let go of that and just have a tragedy unhappen, like literally unhappen? Or actually it turns out they've some twist where, oh, we thought there were this many casualties but there aren't, or, oh, we thought this
right.
coral reef was gone but actually, whatever, it's actually flourishing underneath, which is a story that happened.
Yeah,
A deeper coral reef was existing anyway.
I remember that. Yeah.
That as well. But it feels like I'm telling people not to care about humanity or the earth, and
That's
it's
not it. No.
kind of the opposite, but it kind of also is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just going to help us get us to the place we want to
Yeah.
get faster.
Yeah. Love
Okay,
it.
we have run super long. um I guess we'll just leave it at that for this one. It's I
Yeah.
you and I will talk offline. But
We'll be back next Friday.
uh, yes, the following Monday you will
Or
hear.
yeah.
But yeah, um, I wonder, did I have a question for people?
What are you not caring about these
Yeah,
days?
like hyper personal. It felt especially significant during this lunar eclipse period. So it could be something that you're just choosing not to care about in your own life as well. The power of withdrawing attention from stuff
Mhm.
um, is always so interesting.
Totally.
Oh, I know the other thing I wanted to say. We need people building and we need people doing, but we also need people just vibing and chilling and resting,
Yeah.
enjoying life, and being in that energy. That is incredibly powerful energy. Just vibing, happy, secure, feeling good, feeling safe in their bodies, feeling safe in their nervous systems, creating fun and play and happiness and joy. Super important. And just chilling, resting, not doing anything at all. That's what we're moving towards, is much more balanced of non-doing and doing. So that's also very potent. Okay.
I'm really glad that you said that because that's what I've been doing these past couple months. And I've had a lot of the guilt come up where it's like, but I'm not, there's no reason for me to be resting. I'm not sick, whatever. And I also don't have kids or a job or any of these things. And I should be doing all the, and I have just been called to rest and just be in my own joy. And when the people that I've been helping have come out here, immediately I can sense they're like up here with the agitation and it steps lower. They're just like, oh, I feel at peace. That is so valuable, and I need to value that value that I bring to this experience because living in joy and being chill and not doing shit
Yeah.
is wow. I didn't realize how powerful that was because I was experiencing so much survivor's guilt that I was just like, I shouldn't be enjoying myself. What the fuck? So it was really helpful for me to hear you say that because I'm like, oh, that is one of the things I'm doing right now.
It's
So,
it's also the most powerful way to learn and teach yourself more about how things resolve themselves much more quickly and efficiently without effort, without your attention, without your care, without you doing anything at all. That not doing is as powerful and sometimes more powerful than taking action in terms
oh,
of resolving things. And that is something that it's just our current zeitgeist and our current belief system. Um,
yeah.
is like all about the action and the doing,
Mhm.
and it's just not true.
Yep. It's really not. Really not.
So yeah, this one got a bit like extended and a little bit more deep for our morning space chats, but
It was
we
fun.
yeah, we all space kittens share what you're not caring about right now. Love to hear it, and see you next time.
Love you.
Bye.